All right, Hampton and Clarion, it's time for some more math. We're going to kick off today's lesson with some fluency using place value. So we're going to start with this number. What number is that? Go ahead and say the number in standard form. Right, the standard form of this number is 157. So I want you to now say it in unit form. You're right. The unit form, we would say 100, 5 tens, 7 ones. Now go ahead and say it in unit form with only tens and ones. Yep. 15 tens, 7 ones. Now, expanded form. Awesome. 100 plus 50 plus 7 equals 157. That is the expanded form for this number. So how many ones are in 157? Nope. Remember, I know that sometimes some of you might think about the digit that's in the ones place, but if I asked you to bring me 157 beads, how many would you bring me? Right, 157. So the total number of ones in the number 157 is 157. How many tens are in 157? 15 tens. You're right. So 157 has 157 ones, 15 tens. Remember, because there are 10 tens in 100, 5 tens in the number 157, there's a 5 in the tens place, so that means that's 50. So 10 tens plus 5 tens equals 15 tens. 15 tens, 150. Let's see, moving on. What digit is in the ones place? Right, 7. 7 is the digit that's in the ones place. If I were to write my number in a place value chart, the number 7 will go in the ones place. What is the value of the digit in the tens place? Yep, 50, because there's a 5 in the tens place, and 5 tens equals 50. What is 1 less than 157? Right, 156, because 157 minus 1 equals 156. What is 1 more than 157? It's easy, right? 158. 157 plus 1 will give us 158. Now, what's 10 less? If I'm saying 10 less, think about what place might change. You're right, the tens place. So the 5 will change into a 4. So instead of 157, 10 less would be 147. What about 10 more? Again, think about what place would change. Yep, the tens place. So 10 more than 157 would be 167, because 157 plus 10 will give us 167. How about 100 more? You got it, 257. 100 less. I'm waiting. Yep, 57, because 157 minus 100 will give us just 57. Awesome job today with fluency. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to today's lesson. So with today's lesson, we're going to learn about a word called compensation. Everyone see that? Compensation. So with compensation, we're going to start off using our Lincoln cubes. Miss Hose doesn't draw very well, so we're going to use our imagination. We're going to pretend like these are the same Lincoln cubes that we use in math class. So as you can see at the top, we have red Lincoln cubes. At the bottom, we have blue Lincoln cubes. So we're going to count our Lincoln cubes as each cube was worth 10. So let's start with the red first. 10, count with me, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Now we're going to go ahead and count our blue Lincoln cubes as if they had a value of 10. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So go ahead and give me the number sentence. Yep, if you said 80 minus 50 equals 30, you're exactly right. The difference is 30. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a Lincoln cube, and I'm just going to use my black marker. I'm going to go ahead and add a Lincoln cube to the end of both. So here's my Lincoln cube that I added to the end of both. Now say the number sentence. So now I would have 90 minus 60 equals 30. Go ahead and turn and tell a sibling or family member, what do you notice about these two number sentences and what I did with the Lincoln cubes? I'm going to give you 60 seconds. Turn and tell a friend or a parent or a cousin what you notice about the Lincoln cubes, what I did the Lincoln cubes and the number sentences. What is the relationship between the number sentences and the Lincoln cubes? Go. 60 seconds. All right, so as you can see, while you all were discussing the number sentences and the Lincoln cubes, I went ahead and I drew two tape diagrams. So in the first tape diagram, I'm going to put 80 and I'm going to put 50. And I'm going to draw another set up here. So the tape diagrams that I'm drawing up here are going to represent the very first number sentence that we did, 80, 50. And this will be the difference, and we know that the difference is 30. So down here, this represents the second time we worked with the Lincoln cubes because we added 10 to both. And then we got the number sentence 90 minus 60, and we know that the difference was 30. So they both had the same difference. So we're going to check to see how that worked out for both problems. So we know that 80 is the whole and 50 was one of the parts. So that means that 30 was the other part. And in this example, 90 was the whole and 60 was one of the parts. And we know that 30 is the other part. And when we add 30 plus 50, we got 80. So we know that that's the right answer because remember, when you add the two parts together, it should equal the total. So we're going to go ahead and look at these number bonds. So I'm going to draw 80 here, 50, 30, and 90, 60, 30. And both number bonds have the same missing part. They were both missing 30. So what we did is we added the same number to both numbers to help us to solve the problem, and that is called compensation. So I'm going to walk you all through a problem, and then we're going to do one together, and then I'm going to leave one for you to do on your own. So I'm going to go ahead and erase so I'll have some space to work this problem out. So let's try a new problem. We're going to start with 230 minus 180. 230 minus 180. Now, you all were probably able to solve 80 minus 50 in a snap. Look at this problem. This problem is a little bit more difficult to solve. Why do you think it's difficult to solve? Yep, you're right, because you will have to decompose 100 because there's not enough tens for you to give them. So we will have to decompose 100. So instead of going through the process of decomposing, we can just use compensation, and I'm going to walk you through the steps. So think about it as this. What's 250 minus 250, right? You were able to solve that super fast because you know that if you were to take away the hundreds, there would be no hundreds left, and then there's 5 tens left, so you would just have 50. You were able to do that super fast. So I'm going to draw a tape diagram to help us with this problem. So I'm going to go ahead and put 230 in this one and 180 in this one. Now, I want you all to think about how much or which one of these numbers is closest to the next 100 or the next 10. Think in your brain, which one of these numbers is closest to the next 10 or the next 100? Right, if you said 180, you're exactly right. 180 is closest to the next 100. So you can think about how much more, what is the next 100 first? Yep, 200. So 200 is our friendly number. How much more does 180 need to get to 200? 20, you're right. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 20 to get a friendly number. But if we added 20 to 180, we also need to add 20 to 230. And what we just did is called compensation. Compensation is when we add the same amount to both numbers to make an equivalent but easier problem. Again, compensation means to add the same amount to both numbers to make an equivalent but easier problem. Got it? All right. So now when we do this to make the problem easier, we also create a new number sentence. So instead of 230, we have 250 minus 200. The problem that you just solved mentally in your head, and we all know we figured that out fast, it was 50. So therefore, 230 minus 80 equals 50. So we can say that 230 minus 180 equals 250 minus 200. They're both the same because you get the same difference. We just use compensation to make the problem more simplistic, and we got 50. So now we're going to do another one. All right. Let's try 330 minus 280. This one is a little difficult for us to solve in our head, so we're going to use our strategy, compensation. We're going to draw two tape diagrams. We're going to think about which one of these is closest to the next 10 or the next 100? I think the next 100 will help us to solve the problem. So I know that 280 is closest because 280 is only 20 away from the next 100, which is 300, which will be our benchmark number or our friendly number. 330, the next 100 will be 400, and that's 70 away. So we always want to go with the number that's closest to the next 100. So I'm going to go ahead and add 20 again to both numbers. Remember, if I do to one, I have to do to the other, and then I write my new number sentence, which would be 350 minus 300, and I get 50. See that? Let's try it. I'm going to walk you through another one. So I'm going to do 500 minus 370. 500 in the first tape diagram, 370 in the second one. I know that I want to make my benchmark number, which would be the next 100. I think that 370 is the one that I'm going to use because it's closest to the next 100, which would be 400. We need 30 more to get to 400 because if we're at 370, 380, 390, 400 needs 3 more tens, which is 30. We need to add the same thing. So that, therefore, my new number sentence will be 330 minus 400, which is 130. I know that 0 ones minus 0 ones equals 0 ones. 3 tens minus 0 tens, I still have 3 tens. 500s minus 400, I have 100. I can solve this problem mentally in my head after doing compensation. So compensation helps to make the problem easier to solve. All right. So far, we've only been working with numbers with 0 ones. So we're going to try subtracting numbers with some ones to see how that goes. So I'm going to write down a new problem. 321 minus 199. Don't be afraid because the numbers now have ones. It works the same way. So we're going to think about the difference between these two numbers. So I'm going to write 321 and 199, and we're looking for this part right here. That's what we need to think about. We need to figure out which one of these numbers is closest to the next benchmark number. Of course, we're going to go with 199. 199 is close to 200. It's super close. How close is it? You're right. It only needs one more. So that means we only have to add 1 to both numbers to make our new number sentence. So we're going to say 322 minus 200, and we will get 122. It's very, very simple. And we can check our problem by adding the two parts together. So when we add 122 plus 200, that should give us 322. 2 ones, 0 ones. I'm going to make a place value chart to make this easier for some of my friends. I would have 2. 2 10, 2, there's a 2 in the tens digit, there's 0 in the tens digit, 2. 1 in the hundreds digit, a 2 in the hundreds digits over here. 100 and 200 makes 300. So I got the whole that I started with, which means that my answer was correct. So we are going to try one more, and then I'm going to leave one on the board for you all to solve as your exit ticket. All right, so let's do 514 minus 290. So we're going to draw a tape diagram. 514, 290. Now I want you all to think about how much each number needs to make the problem easier. If you said 10, you're absolutely correct. All we need is 10 to get to our benchmark number, which is 300. If I added 10 to that number, I also need to add 10 to 514. So now I have 524 minus 300, which will give me 224. Super duper easy. I know that you can do it. So now I'm going to leave your exit ticket on the board. I want you all to solve the problem using compensation. Remember, compensation is when you're adding the same number to both numbers to simplify the problem. So I want you all to solve the problem by drawing tape diagrams. Think about which one of these numbers is going to be closest to the next 100. Find your benchmark number. Write your new number sentence. And to get some writing going, maybe you can create a word problem that matches with your number sentence. So here's your exit ticket. I want you all to solve. I'm actually going to give you two problems. So A, 547 minus 498. And B, 720 minus 575. And I want you all to use compensation. I know you all love to use the arrow way or new groups below or number bonds, but for this problem, I want you all to use compensation. Don't forget to submit your work to me. Enjoy.